Hi, I'm Don Stanek, your instructor for Certified Sales Interrogator. Over the last couple of chapters, we went deep into the story. What are the individual story points and the individual story components that we need to understand? And then the other thing we talked about was the types of questions. What types of questions do we need to get to those story points? Now, this chapter is all about the psychological staging of our customer. People are not always willing to share. Now, this doesn't mean that they are necessarily standoffish without cause. Everyone has got a different story, and the truth is that they may have had a bad experience in the past, and they might not like salespeople, or there might be things that they themselves don't truly understand. Does this mean that they're lying to us if they say something that doesn't seem to add up? Far from the truth. What's really happening here is as we're having these sales conversations with our customer, we're discovering things about what they're saying, but the truth also is that they're probably discovering things about themselves that they haven't thought of in a while, or that someone, a professional, hasn't really walked them through step by step. This chapter is all about identifying where is your customer in their mind, and what are they focused on, and what are their hopes, what are their dreams, what are their expectations, what are the barriers or the things, situations in the past that might be creating an obstacle so that they don't want to go forward? And most importantly, what is their current state of mind? We're going to have to be able to evaluate this so that we can decide, are we going to go into presentation mode? Are we going to engage this person in some type of long-term follow-up? Or is this person ready, able, and willing to make a choice right now to transact? By the time we are done with this chapter, you're going to be able to identify where this person is and how to best tailor your presentation to make the most impact and to help them go forward. One of the things I think we need to settle right up front when it comes to understanding someone's state of mind is the fact that mind most likely exists outside of time. And I know this might sound a little mushy, a little esoteric, but let me give you an example. I'm sure you, like the rest of us, can think of something that happened in your distant past as if it just happened, or if you close your eyes, you can kind of think of it happening even in the moment. Some of these things are good and some are not so good. So why is it that we can take something, such an old, ancient memory, and call it right to our attention? In fact, some people say, well, I remember that happened like it was yesterday. It was 20 years ago. So why is it that that amount of time didn't really have any effect on our memory in terms of being able to recollect something? Again, I submit for your consideration that your mind generally is not constrained by time. So when we start talking to a customer, you need to keep focused on the fact that they might be conveying information to you and it might be drawing from a past. Now, that past might be an incredibly distant past, but the information that you're drawing out of them is just like it happened yesterday. But hey, it was 10 years, 15, 20 years ago. As a professional, you're being able to contextualize someone's past experiences is going to help you guide them through a discovery process, not just so that you can help them discover the right product for themselves, but they might actually discover something about themselves. Mind is outside of time. So if there's not mind in the moment, what do we have? I would probably think about it more in terms of sequence. Like, these things happened in the past, and these things are occurring right now in the present. And then we've got hopes and dreams and aspirations for the future. Think of it in terms of a circular Venn diagram. You've got a past, a present, and a future. 3 circles that overlap periodically. And so the experience that you're having in reality, the experience your customer is having in reality, isn't so linear. It's like, well, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. Yes, that is the sequence of events that occurred. But that linear understanding of time isn't really giving us much depth in terms of what was the weight. What's the weight and the impact and the importance of this past event? What are the considerations in the moment that are incredibly heavy or wearing on your heart or on your mind? And what is that joy when you look to the future for relief over your current situation because you made some past decisions, what is going to happen in the future that's going to ease your mind, right? As a sales professional, this is the three-ring circus of your client's psychological staging. You've got a past, a present, and a future. So when we start exploring that three-ring circus that's going on in all of our heads, how important is that ring that we call the past? It's pretty dang important. Now, with your customer, how important is their past experience around a past transaction? It's absolutely huge. Maybe things went really well and they don't have any fear at all, or very realistic or normal, healthy fear about entering into a contract. But then maybe if you start probing into that person's past experience, remember, experience questions, things that happen in that person's past that they're an expert in. Let's say you ask them a question like, so tell me a little bit about your past experience with home ownership. Well, we lost a home to foreclosure in 2008 when the market went really bad. Whoops. So did we just put our foot in it? Not really, because you have to understand what is going on in that person's past. But now you need to ask a follow-up question to see how weighty is that experience today, okay? So we understand that they lost a house back in foreclosure in 2008. That's quite some time ago. Now, do they remember that like it's today? If they really have to think about remembering it, does it really take them time to remember it? Or are they still living that moment and they can't break the psychological bind that that event has on them? Is that going to prevent them from going forward? Or is it going to just cause them to ask more questions? Or is it not even going to play a factor at all? So, but these past experience questions are essential. Not just asking the question, but then measuring the impact and the importance. What is the weight of that past experience in our current situation? Is that past experience, is it going to help us get over the threshold of the moment so that we can sign a purchase agreement or a listing contract or some other type of instrument, a transaction document, and that's going to set this person up for a successful future? How important are those past situations? They're critical. And as a sales professional, when you're asking questions about the past, you had better be taking some notes. If you're not physically writing something down, which I recommend, you have to take note in your head. Don't worry about asking about a past situation that was uncomfortable. There might be a certain amount of release or cathartic release that happens when this person explains, well, yeah, we did lose that home in, 2008. But, it was a great learning experience. We rebounded very quickly. We were able to buy and sell 2 homes since that time. But what it did do is, we really focus on what do we really want if we got stuck with the house. Okay, so that person gave you kind of this whole sidebar conversation about, yes, we had the experience, but then if you let them continue to share, they start walking you through how it ended up being more of an educational experience than it was like the worst thing that ever happened in their life. Now, as they're in the moment, in the past, back in 2008, might have been the worst moment of their life. But I don't want to minimize that, and I don't want to disqualify it, but I also don't want to dwell on it. Because when you anchor people in the past, they have a tendency to not want to go forward, or they don't see hope and they don't see future. And in order for them to see a future, we have to reconcile the past, and we have some things that we have got to get done in this moment. And it's only the things in the moment that are really going to count for us as sales professionals. Technically, the past and the future don't exist. It might be documented past, sure, but you might relive it. But it's not there any longer. There's not a past that you can physically go to and see. So some of this is just illusionary. It's a ghost. Are they afraid? Is it fear? What is it, right? So take as much time as you need to understand that past before you just arbitrarily start saying things or presenting material that might not have any impact or any bearing, or worse yet, does damage on their moment that you're having with them in the now, this moment now, in the present. Circle number 2 is the present circle, or now, or the current moment. I find it really kind of curious that the word presentation has the word present in it. I'm not offering something in present tense, but what I am doing is trying to understand at this moment, what is your current state? What's the current state of my customer's thinking? What is their current situation? Just like we asked some experience questions to understand a little bit about this person's past experience, what I want to do is take notes and document everything that I need to document and think about when it comes to current state. As a business analyst might do this, what they do is they ask a lot of questions of a business group to understand where is their maturity in the business cycle, what systems do they use, what processes do they use, what assets and liabilities do they have. You're approaching current state very much in this posture and in this mindset. What you're doing is you're opening a scorecard and you're taking some great notes around scorecard. So Bill, Jim, Susie, whatever, Susie, tell me a little bit about your current situation, right? Your current situation. Well, we rent 2 bedrooms, and we're saving for money for down payment, and we're in the process of getting pre-approved with our lender. Okay, good. So what am I getting? In the moment, blow by blow, step-by-step activity of what this person is thinking about right now. Okay, so just because they rent 2-bedroom apartment currently, that doesn't give me any context for maybe what happened before. Because maybe when I asked about their past experience, and they told me about the foreclosure, whoops, and then they've been renting ever since. So my gosh, you've been renting for a decade, right? So how important is it for me to understand their current state? Their current state as a sales professional is the only place where I can offer any influence. The current state is when I help this person identify pain points in their past and reconcile them. And in the current moment, I'm going to hopefully present information in the present moment that's going to empower these people to make a decision to go forward to do something. Or maybe the best decision for them is not to go forward and do anything at this time. Maybe they just don't do anything. Maybe they still have more things that they have to take care of in the moment. We're still working through our plan in the moment so that we can forecast into the future. Just like the past doesn't actually exist, the future doesn't exist. The only place where a sales professional has any real purposeful and meaningful impact over this customer storyline is in the moment. It's important to stay in the moment and understand where they are in the moment. And the past is about how they got to this moment. As you're advancing in the moment and trying to understand more about where this person is, you're going to uncover hopes and dreams of the future, and you're also going to stumble across some things that need to be reconciled in the past. As a professional sales person, your goal is to take the past and the future and you create a vector in the moment where the information that you're giving is going to offer a great deal of value to help this person make an informed decision so that they can go forward, or maybe not. This brings us to the third and final ring that's happening in the 3-ring circus of our head, and that is the future ring. The future is when we have our problem solved and the situation is better. So something pulled us or pushed us into the future, and maybe that was something that was happening in the moment that was unacceptable, or maybe that's something that we had a very strong memory of in the past. We want to avoid that thing, right? So motivations to go forward are typically fear of loss and a hope for gain. A fear of loss is I have a bad memory in my past and my current situation is lining up with that bad memory, and I know what's going to happen next. Something bad's going to happen. So I need to avoid that. Fear of loss. I'm going to take a choice and a chance, and I'm going to go forward into the future. So that's reactive thinking, and then which is about 90% of our general behavior. Proactive thinking is that I'm looking forward to the future And what's motivating me is a sense of something better that's going to be in the future that I don't currently have. I'm not being chased out of the current moment. I'm actually reaching for something that might be different or more beneficial, or I perceive it to be beneficial at the moment that I'm making that forward plan and that reach. So that's called a hope for gain. Maybe I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to purchase an investment property, and that's going to take care of all my problems because I'm going to have passive income. And wouldn't that be great? So I'm not dwelling on the fact that I didn't have passive income before, but in my current state, I've got the capacity to contract, and I think I can create a situation where I can make some regular and passive income going forward. I'm hoping for the future. So hope for the future is, in fact, one of the main reasons why we take action in the first place. Very few of us are going to think, wow, in the future it's going to be worse, and so I'm going to go ahead and start motivating myself toward that. It's just not the nature of how we think. No matter what our circumstance, no matter what our past experience, the human condition is just fraught with optimism. Like things are going to be better in the future. Now, sometimes this optimism is poorly justified, but it doesn't really matter. It's kind of a survival instinct, and it's kind of a part of our programming. Things are going to get better in the future. Well, that's true if, and only if, you make a better plan in the moment and that you consider what happened in the past. As a sales professional, your ability to influence someone's future is about casting a vision. In the future, it'll look like this. In the future, you're going to be happier because of this. Now, before you start presenting those solutions, again, you got to take out the scorecard. You got to take out the notepad. We documented the past pretty well. We documented the current state really well. Now, what I want to do is I want to start engaging in some dialogue that's going to help my customer dream about the future. Remember when we were talking about preparatory statements in the past chapter, I used a statement. I said, Jim, if money were no object, and what kind of a house would you like to live in? Like if you didn't have to worry about time and money and payments or any of that stuff, like what would you really, really want? What would really make you happy? Now, we know that Jim can't live in a castle and not have any money. That's going to be a problem. But there might be some features and some things that Jim's going to share with us about this future dream state where we can kind of, like a buffet, oh, I could probably achieve that and that. Probably not going to get this or this or this. So going forward, what I'm going to do is help this customer reconcile their current truth, their current reality, their current budget with what their hopes and their dreams of the future state. But if I don't have a clear idea of what the future desired state is, I'm not going to have very much leverage in terms of advancing this sales conversation. I can't just dwell on the past because that's not helpful. If all I do is talk about their current state, it's not a solution. And the goal here is to identify a solution to a problem, which is avoiding pain, right? Or I'm providing a solution as a facilitation for the hope for gain, which is in the future it's going to be better because I'm letting go of this past thing. I don't have to worry about the present situation, and I'm going full force into the future. Your job as a sales professional is to understand and document what these needs and wants are in the future. And then you need to create some context around why is that important to them in the future. Is it something that is chasing them away from a bad past? Or is this truly an aspirational desire? Man, one day I'd just really like to live on the beach. Like I don't want to live 6 blocks in from the beach. I want to wake up and open my back door and I want to step into the sand. Okay, whew, that's a vision. Why is that vision so important? What is it tied to? Is it freedom? Is it prestige? Like, what is it? If you can start tapping into this type of interrogation and get this person to dream, you're going to start having some real contextual understanding of what plan do we have to make in right now. Like, what do we have to do right now in order to get there? We might be able to get there right now. We might not. But what will happen is this is going to help us identify the blockers to future state. if we get someone dreaming and talking about their needs and wants in the future state, we can start gently backing in action items and testing reality points. Is that future that they're projecting, is that real? Is it just total fantasy? Is it a goal? Like, remember, a goal has to be measurable and realistic, and it has to be tied to time performance and understanding and constriction. As the sales professional, you want to cast this beautiful vision, but you also need to back in the realities associated with how you get from point A to point B. Show them how it could be very realistic and how that's going to happen by you making a signature on a piece of paper today. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the chapter. This chapter was just absolutely packed with a ton of information. I recommend that you go back and watch this video 2 or 3 times or as many times as you need to watch it for these principles to really start sinking in. When it comes to your customer psychological staging, there are a lot of things at play. But at the core, they have past experiences, they've got a current situation, and they've got a hope for the future. Your ability as a sales professional to document this stuff, understand it, and utilize it in your presentation and in your interrogation is paramount to your success. As is always the case, if you're struggling with this information or you feel like you just need some additional depth and understanding about what the heck I'm talking about, for goodness sakes, feel free to reach out and contact me directly. My 800 number is below, and so is my email address. I'd love to get to understand a little bit about who you are and where you are in this series. And if you feel like you're struggling or you feel like you're having great success, either way, I would love to hear from you. Please book some time with me and let's talk about it.